Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made a bold move yesterday. He fired all 17 members of a CDC vaccine advisory panel.
Kennedy wrote on X, "Today we are taking a bold step in restoring public trust by totally reconstituting the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices. A clean sweep is necessary to reestablish public confidence in vaccine science. The entire world once looked to American health regulators for guidance, inspiration, scientific impartiality, and unimpeachable integrity. Public trust has eroded. Only through radical transparency and gold standard science will we earn it back." In a Wall Street Journal op-ed, Kennedy cites multiple reports, including a House investigation and HHS Inspector General report. These reports did find conflicts of interest concerning when it came to members of two vaccine panels at the CDC and the FDA. Kennedy said these conflicts still persist.
Congresswoman Kim Schreier, who is an MD, responded to Kennedy's move, writing, quote, "This is a direct attack on science and a threat to public health. As a pediatrician, I've dedicated my career to protecting children and their communities from terrible diseases like meningitis and measles and have trusted the ACIP's deeply considered recommendations."
Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who was initially on the fence about voting for Kennedy, weighed in on the issue as well, writing, "Of course, now the fear is that ACIP will be filled up with people who know nothing about vaccines except suspicion. I've just spoken with Secretary Kennedy, and I'll continue to talk with him to ensure this is not the case."
Vaccines work. Measles are breaking out again. What are we doing? RFK is a public health is not a public health expert. He's a person with an opinion and an ideology about vaccines, and he's just making these brash decisions. I don't think everybody needs to go. I think that the CDC has helped us in multiple ways over the years in recommending vaccines and guidelines for simple things like the flu. And I don't think that we should just rid the entire department that handles vaccines because we want this transparency. We can find the people that he wants to work with and not just go with an ideology and a blank slate. Because in the meantime, we have children, like this pediatrician mentioned, that need proper recommendations, and parents that are concerned and actually want those recommendations. And then everyone else who just wants to take care of their health based on informed doctor recommendations.
Well, and that's what people should continue to do. People should consult their doctors about what their medical options are for them, their families, and their children, and follow those recommendations.
Unfortunately,
What's the problem?
if you get the measles and you bring it to school, it's not just
now
your
it's other
problem.
people.
No, I'm just
now
saying,
it is.
You
now
want to protect the community.
Oh.
It's the same thing. You want to protect. The reason why you get vaccinated is not only for yourself. It's to protect the people that you love.
Now it's about everybody else. I thought it was just
with.
it was
well, that's what
recommend
government
for
does.
yourself.
It thinks about everybody. Government leads thinking about the entire U.S. population. That's the point.
I think a government that was not willing or did not carefully draw distinctions between something like the measles vaccine, which is, you're right, effective at preventing general outbreaks of measles, which we do want to prevent. The difference between that and something like the flu vaccine or the COVID vaccine, which does not stop outbreaks of COVID whatsoever, does not stop you from getting COVID, helps blunt very severe illness in at-risk populations and older groups of Americans, is not necessary for all age groups. There's no distinction between these two things. When you say vaccines work,
in a crisis,
this is the kinds of distinctions where.
So it said that 40% were effective. Vaccine. 40% people were affected positively, avoiding emergency room visits. Is that not effective during a international pandemic? The world was scrambling. So forgive the CDC for trying their very best. Forgive, all these public health experts that were trying their best. Right? Dealing with an unprecedented issue in our lifetime.
Booster shot. You just don't. You can get it if you want. It's not my problem, but it's not necessary.
Well, I don't think
we all know it's not necessary.
I don't think that any kid is not allowed to go to school right now because they didn't get their 5th booster shot. Correct me if I'm wrong. My daughter's not in school yet, but I don't think that that's mandatory. I think a guideline is just that, a guideline. So why are we getting rid of
it was mandatory at college.
Provide guidelines?
College level was mandatory. I surveyed the
college.
The
first two, but not the 5th. And
you had to be. No, it was more than the first two. No. You had to be at the. I don't know exact number of shots. You had to be up to date. I stopped checking as of a year ago, I think. Maybe they don't have them anymore, but well into the going back to normal. To enroll in a university campus, public university campus, you had to update your vaccine regimen. We're talking about the least at-risk population of all, otherwise healthy young people, and they're still saying get another jab in your arm. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me.
Well, I just think that, we should definitely let the public health experts and the doctors be the
Well,
ones.
now it's the public health experts get to decide. I say let the people
No, I think
decide in
people
consultation
shouldn't
with the
just
public
decide,
health
because
experts.
then we'll have old
People
diseases.
shouldn't just decide.
No, they shouldn't decide, because then we'll have old diseases like measles coming back into public conversations for no reason when we successfully have eradicated it to the most part, where it wasn't
I don't have any
type
problem
of issue
requiring the
So-
measles vaccine, and
But the same
neither does
CDC
anyone else.
that recommends vaccinations for measles and things that are required when you're a very young child, and Tdap shot and all those things, is the same CDC that would recommend future vaccinations because of research that they're gaining and knowledge that they're understanding to propel the conversation forward. I mean, armed with more information and research provides more viable long-term solutions. So you're still mad at a CDC from 5 years ago that was making decisions armed
Yes,
with
I'm
very
still
little,
mad.
armed with
I
very
am
little
still mad,
information.
correct.
No, they were trying
have
their best
stayed
armed
mad.
with very little information.
Well,
and now we have much
they were trying
more.
their best. They sucked. They failed.
So
they
then you should
are
have been in the
terrible.
CDC.
Well,
What's the solution?
I'm not saying put me in the CDC. I'm saying clear out all the. Frankly, I'm saying abolish the CDC. The CDC should just be shut down. What if in your moment of need, your shining moment, the moment your organization exists for, you screwed up testing? What credibility do you have? And you recommend all the closures of schools forever were justified by CDC guidance. They were justified by things Rochelle Walensky was telling lawmakers. This institution failed catastrophically to draw necessary distinctions between this is what we suspect, this is what we know, this is what we recommend, this is what we think you should require. This was all lost on them. And the testing screw-up was so bad that by itself should be enough to have this agency shuttered. It needs wholesale reform, because you're right, vaccines, I am not against vaccines. I am vaccinated. I recommend measles vaccine, certainly. I don't think I think the harms of the COVID vaccine were overstated, in my opinion. I think people saying, oh, it's going to hurt you, are not looking at very good evidence. But so are the people saying you absolutely need to get it. Oh my God, it's going to save you from COVID. That did not pan out unless you are elderly or at risk. Then it is pretty important to get at least the initial shots. I don't know that beyond that what's really making a difference.
I'm on board 100% with being critical of the response to COVID. 100% with you there. But I also am not on board, like most American people, with the kind of knee-jerk reaction that we see coming from people that President Trump has put in place, a lot of times making decisions that have long-term effects when really there's a more rational way to decide what the way forward looks like. So yes, the CDC may need some work, for sure, but that means get rid of everybody in this department just because it's one and done, hire all new people. Like, what about, that's like the same thing that Doge did. Get rid of everybody. It's like these tactics provide scrambling. People don't know who to go to. There's no order. Like, usually when they're trying to change a job, maybe they'll get the person at the top out and then bring different people in. And that's how usually it works at successful companies. So why not run the government a little more organized and make it so that there are still people in place that agencies and doctors
what they
can
claim
call
they're
for
doing is that members of these panels, they say, have conflicts of interest, have what I assume are, although I didn't specifically look at the story, I assume what they're going to say is they have ties to the pharmaceutical industry, and thus they might have some financial incentive to more swiftly approve, or I guess more swiftly to not approve rival products. There's a tremendous amount of cartel-like behavior in the pharmaceutical industry. I am for approving more drugs more rapidly. That's what I want to happen. I am not someone saying, oh, this is unsafe, the vaccine is unsafe, you shouldn't be able to take it. No, I'm saying the opposite. You should be able to take it if you want, but that's the key distinction that I abide by. If you want, you should be allowed to do it. I don't want the government to get in your way. I don't want this recommendation panel to get in your way. So if this is going to speed up approvals, good. If it's going to slow down approvals, then yeah, I don't want that. I don't agree with RFK Jr. on some of his holding the pharmaceutical industry. I agree with holding them accountable and making sure there's fair competition, because a lot of what the government does is protect their intellectual property and prevent us from getting new drugs because because Pfizer has a financial stake, or whoever it is, in just this one product, and the government actually stands in the way of rival products coming into existence. I think that's all bad. I want to overturn that whole system. I don't know if that's what RFK Jr. is trying to do here. That's what I would advise him to do.
Well, some of the bold stances will have bold results, and I guess we'll have to see how this plays out in a couple of months, because it's not going to be an immediate effect for letting all these people go. So we'll have to just watch this.
Lots more to talk about today on Rising. Stay tuned.